lynchings in the South, or in the North for that matter, how horrible were they?
The lynchings that took place in the United States of America since we were brought here was not just horrible, they were horrific. Black folks, men, women, and children were murdered, lynched wholesale for next to no reason at all. There have been constant studies about the lynchings throughout the North and the South. And I think it would be wise for us as a people, or as a nation, or a race of people, to study what we went through in the 1600s, the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, and even in the 20th century, because we're still being legally lynched today.
Malcolm X making the comment about President Kennedy. Should he have been given 90 days of suspension or 90 days of silence for that?
No.
Why?
No. For the simple reason is that the whole time that President Kennedy was president, Minister Malcolm spoke, and in fact he called him John Fitzgerald the Fox Kennedy. John Kennedy was a slick politician. He was a shrewd politician, and he was very brilliant. Minister Malcolm recognized all that. The whole time that the Nation of Islam talked about John Fitzgerald Kennedy and the politics and his political beliefs, it was never an issue. When Minister Malcolm made the statement of the chickens coming home to roost, it was a reason that the Nation of Islam justifiably used to silence Minister Malcolm from the Nation of Islam. But that was not the statement that got him put out of the nation. That was the statement they used to justify putting him out, or silencing him and putting him out.
Brother Danny, what is so negative about the state of Black America today?
Well, reason why it's so negative is, under Malcolm wanted black empowerment for our people. But if you look at it right now, of where we are economically, we're suffering. We have people that, can't make ends meet. They can't pay their rent. They not getting paid from jobs. We're not getting the benefits that we're supposed to get from the 14th Amendment, where all the benefits that we're supposed to get is going to the illegal immigrants, is going to the LGBT and other people. And our politicians, black politicians, have turned their backs on us. So that's the reason why we can't get help. And these people, they go to school, they get college degrees, they get college educated, and they're supposed to turn around and help our community. But instead, they do the opposite. They help the dominant society. And so that's why it's so negative.
I've heard a lot of immigrants say to African Americans and black folks born here that get over it.
Right.
Move on. Forget what happened to you during slavery. What do you say to that?
Oh man. What I say to that, these are people that, these are arrogant statements. They don't really know the history of the country. They don't know that we built the country. We made it proper for them to come over here and enjoy the fruits of our labor, where we as black people supposed to be enjoying the fruits of our own labor, but everybody else that come over here, they enjoy it more than us.
Let me add on to that question or that statement. Mm-hmm. The Jewish community has always said never to forget what they went through with Hitler. But if they're not allowed to forget, why do we have to forget? Why do we have to forget and forgive and pretend like nothing never happened, when in fact reality that any nationality or any race of people that something critically or bad happened to them in life, they're paid reparations, they're able to build their countries. I mean, they send money to Israel, wide open. They just have a total disregard for us and how we feel. It's a simple case of mind over matter. To them, they don't mind because we don't matter.
Brother George Luckett, you joined the Nation of Islam. How and when did you get involved in the Nation of Islam?
Oh, well, it's quite a story how I got involved. And in fact, I got involved in the Nation of Islam by sheer luck. I was in the right place at the right time. And I had a friend that got me involved in the Nation of Islam by the name of Brother Adrian, whom I call my personal death angel. I was playing basketball as a kid. We're talking 12, 13 years old on the playground. And him and his brother was selling Muhammad Speaks newspapers. And they came past the playground and they asked me, did I have a suit and a tie? And I told them, no, I didn't have no suit and tie. We were poor. We was poor. There was 8 zeros between the P and the R. That's how poor we was. And 8 O's instead of zeros. It was just terrible. And I said, no. They said, well, you got a sweater and a clean shirt. I said, yeah. They said, well, come with us. And I went out to sell newspapers. And at the end of the day, he stopped at Burger King and bought a Whopper and French fries and a drink. Mm-hmm. And that was my pay for that. Mm-hmm. And my question was, when are we going to do this again? I was selling the papers and didn't have any idea what I was selling. And then I was invited to one of the mosque meetings, and I went to a mosque meeting. And the first thing I said is that these niggas got to be crazy. You know, I mean, they literally got to be crazy. But we had a great minister, and I listened to what they had to say, and I went to a couple of meetings, and I said, well, this is what I want to do. So I got involved in selling the newspapers, going door to door, you know, trying to build a nation for black folks.
Were you politically educated at that time?
No.
How old were you?
No, 13. No.
No consciousness?
No.
I guess, what attracted you to the Nation of Islam under Elijah Muhammad?
The discipline, the brotherhood, and the unity. It was always, it was perceived to be at that time as a young child looking up as a family unit. They had the sisters, they had the brothers, and we looked at things like, you know, this is really a real tight-knit family. And I wanted to be a real serious part of that. And I wanted to be able to help the black community. You know, I wanted to be able to help, you know, even by just passing the word, getting the word out.
You're appearing in a documentary called Brother Malcolm, Diamond Among Men. Is Malcolm deserving of such a title?
Malcolm deserves a title much greater than that. I think that the Diamond Among Men is a brilliant title, but if there was a word that could give us a full understanding of what Minister Malcolm should mean and does mean to us as a people, that should be used. I am proud to be a part of this document. I am just so proud. This documentary is just so powerful. I've had the pleasure of meeting brothers that I've never met from different sides and different parts of the country, different states, different cities. Brother Dan here has shown me the loops and the pitfalls of the subway system here in this city, you know, which I'm really, really proud and thankful for. It's just been a great, true experience for me. Minister Malcolm deserves every clap on the back, every pat on the back, every shoulder rub that he can get.
I want to ask you, Brother Dan, the rise of black-on-black crime in black communities. How did this happen?
Well, you know, it was a breakdown, you know, I would say after the 1970s, because, you know, around then, you know, when Malcolm was, you know, an activist, King, and a lot of our, you know, the Black Panther Party, we showed that we were on code. Nobody could, you know, do the things that they could against us. So what happened was we had a total breakdown. We had drugs coming out of our community. You know, we had these black exploitation movies. I mean, they were good. A lot of them had good music in them. But it really messed up the children, the kids, because all the kids, the men want to become pimps and drug dealers. The women want to become hoes. It's just a total breakdown. So now the street game, as you can see, they went from having Cadillacs and I guess mopeds to having Maybachs and Mercedes Benz. They wanted the big money. So they started selling big drugs, big cocaine. They started doing international deals. So once you saw all this violence in the street, it just carried on from generation to generation. So now it's just totally out of hand. And then with this cryptocurrency that we have, and it's not worth, the money that they said it was. A lot of the crypto has gone down. It used to be where you can invest $100 and then overnight you'll have $14,000. Now it's a total scam. And so a lot of the people in the streets, the drug dealers and the hustlers, they would take their money and launder it into cryptocurrency. Now, since cryptocurrency is not worth anything in some aspects, now you're seeing even more violence in the street.
I was just thinking about two songs by two artists, one by Cyndi Lauper and one by James Brown. Cyndi Lauper said, "Money changes everything." And James Brown said, "Money won't change you." What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's heavy.
Yeah, it is.
That's heavy. That's heavy. I would say that money does alter you. Money, the power in money alters you as a person. If you have a strong mind, then you can contain the money that you garnish or have. If you have a weak mind, there was an old saying, an old Jew used to say that a fool and his money will soon part. So if you're foolish, you can squander away millions. We've had entertainers, we've had professional fighters and people that were just in the field of making money that are broke. I read an article that one of our greatest jazz singers, Billie Holiday, died and had 43 cents in her bank account. And she was on top of the world. How many fighters do we know that money changed them, and then they wake up and they're broke? They don't have anything at all.
Well, then in James Brown case where he says money won't change you, he said time will.
Take you out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brother George, to the best of your knowledge, did the Nation of Islam have anything to do with the murder of Minister Malcolm?
Yes, I can answer that. Yes, they had. A lot of people. I heard a minister say that it wasn't the NOI, it was the FBI that murdered Minister Malcolm, and I would like to be able to set that record straight as I possibly can. First of all, it was niggas that pulled the trigger. I don't care who they work for, what their position was, bossy, FOI, CIA. I'm not interested in none of that. My concern was it was niggas that pulled the trigger. So, and they were brothers of the Nation of Islam that pulled the trigger. It was a badge of honor to have been part of the murder of Minister Malcolm. And the Nation of Islam wore that badge well. They was guilty from the door.
What's your take on Butler and Johnson?
Oh. They should have went to jail. They weren't there at the Audubon, but they should have went to jail. And a lot of people don't realize that when they were arrested because they were tag men. They were enforcers within the Nation of Islam. And I think it was Johnson that was getting ready to go on trial for having shot somebody a couple of weeks before that. So they should have went to jail. They didn't go to jail for the right thing, but they went to jail anyway. And I call that karma. I call that what goes around finally catches up with you, and they deserve that.
Brother Dan, do you think we will ever see reparations in our lifetime?
Yeah, I really don't think so. Only reason why, there's been discussions lately about reparations on social media, YouTube, but I don't think we have the right structure, the right political structure. We need attorneys. That's when we need, our black attorneys to come through. Otherwise it's a waste of time. And as far as these rallies that they had one in Washington, D.C. They don't need one rally and then 4 months later there's another rally. You got to keep the pressure every single day. And if you can't do it every single day, every single weekend, you have to be out there. So really,
You just mentioned that we need lawyers. Do black people need leaders in 2023, as opposed to lawyers? Do we need leaders?
well, it's hard to find a leader. Malcolm was the best leader that we ever had. So basically, we have to have a code of conduct now. Because, when you have leaders, they can just, shoot them down, because they out there. So if everybody's on code, the code will be the leader, basically. And they can't strike it down because we all on the same page.
I want to ask both of you gentlemen about God. Because nearly all my life, and I'm sure it's been the same with you, that you constantly hear that God is coming one day to destroy the bad people. Do black people have to wait for God to come to punish their enemies? Apparently, God's been doing the rope-a-dope for a long time. When is he coming?
Well, let me just say this. I want to answer that question, but I want to go back to reparation if I can real fast.
Sure, sir.
Sure.
Dr. King once questioned the United States government about what we deserved as a people as far as reparation. And he said that we were promised 40 acres and a mule under Abraham Lincoln. That was the first law or rule taken off the book when Johnson became president after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. They said that there was no land available, but at the same time, they was having the big land grab in the West, in Oklahoma, in Texas, California in the gold rush, and they was just giving people land when you just went out there and you drove a stake in the ground, and then you rode some more on a horse, and you put another stake in the ground, and then you went into town and said, this is my land that I staked out. But they never gave us what we're supposed to have. They never did, and they never will. And Dr. King said it was a promissory note, and he said it was a check that came back marked insufficient funds. Now the question back to should we wait for God to deal with our enemies? No.
That's a long wait.
Yes, no. And the simple reason is that it is written that God helps those who help himself. If we laying back doing nothing, waiting, we'll just be sitting back waiting.
Gotta laugh to keep from crying.
Yes, sir.
When the world's at peace, will it be in one piece?
Good question.
It's harder to win a war with peace than it is with war. You can't win a war in peace. And as long as there's the two dynamics, the good and bad or the good and evil, it'll never be peace. Because evil will never let peace rest unless you rest in peace.
That sounds like death.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Is it insane for any black person to state, "Make America Great Again"?
Oh, my gracious.
When was it great?
There's the answer. That's the answer.
When was it great?
It was never great. It was never great.
It was built on exploitation of others.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
What yardstick would they even use to say America was great? I mean, what do they judge that by? You know, that's the big thing. You know, you can't make something great that's never been great. It's been wicked since its foundation.
Yeah.
You know, on that note of deception, I'm thinking about another song.
Okay.
There was a song by an R&B group called The Undisputed Truth.
Uh-oh.
Who sang a song titled Smiling Faces.
Sometimes.
There's a line in that song that says, your enemy won't do you no wrong because you know where he's coming from.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you know where your enemy's coming from, they're speaking about your open enemy, but your closed enemy is your brother.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes. That was a true statement. And that was one of the artists that was under Norman Whitfield, who was brilliant, and he was trying to get a lot of message songs was coming out then. A lot of powerful messages in the songs. And a lot of times we were so busy, you know, bumping and grinding and boogalooing that we didn't actually hear the words to the song unless we were musically inclined in a group and we sang the song and then we finally started hearing the song. But a lot of people listened to that song and never heard the words of the song, you know. But yeah, our enemies we know, you know, but it's our unknown enemies that always get us, you know. All through history, Jesus, he had Judas. Caesar, he had Brutus, you know. Malcolm, he had Elijah. I mean, what the heck? You know, get them.
So,
Dr. Khalid had Louis Farrakhan.
So your closed enemy, your brother,
Correct.
is the one you have to watch out for.
Yes.
Because it's not the Klansmen coming to black communities. It's not the Proud Boys. And there's another race group, white hate group.
Aryan Nation.
You know, they're not coming to the black community hurt. So we got to constantly watch out for our own people hurting us.
Correct.
You know, that's frightening.
It is.
That's terrible.
It's sad and sick.
Sick is, damn. Is there another better word than sick?
Yeah, how about that? Devastating.
Yeah.
Dastardly.
What would be, Brother Danny, what would be positive about the state of black America? What is positive about the state of black America today? What is positive?
The only positive that I can talk about, because I see it on social media, is that some people are really waking up. But the problem is it positive? It's not positive if you don't have the resources to fight it, if you know what I mean. You know, they understand, you know, everything is against us now. Everything has been weaponized against us. So in order for us to fight this, we need the resources. You know, we need a network. And for some reason, we don't have it. And going into 2023, Malcolm talked about black empowerment. I mean, I don't know. It seems like it's too late in the game, basically.
Too late in the game. Wow. If positions had to be switched and white people had to endure what happened to black people historically, how differently would white people handle the situation that we're in?
They would have never made it through slavery. In fact, the first 200 years of here, the first 200 years of them being in what is considered to be the United States of America, the Indians had to make sure they had provisions to live. They would have never made slavery. They couldn't take slavery. They weren't meant to be brutalized, to be beat. I'm not saying that they're soft, but they're softer than the average black man. I'm not saying that they're weak, but they're weaker than the average black man. I'm not saying that they can't take stress and strain, but they can't take the stress and strain that the black folks take. You know, black folks wake up tomorrow and have no money. We won't jump off no bridge. You know, we ain't jumping out no window. You know, we ain't blowing our brains out. You know, we're not going for that kind of stuff, you know. They're emotionally, mentally, physically, they're structurally not able to do or endure what we have as a people. They just couldn't do it. In fact, let me say this. No other ethnic group could make it. It was designed and destined for us to go through that. because we could handle it.
Physically, emotionally, mentally.
Sure, sure. We're tough as cowhide.
And they know it.
Oh, yeah. That's why we was used. They used to beat us to see how much we could take. That's why they started out with the lashes. They started out with 10. Then they found out you could take 10, they gave you 20.
They upped it.
And yeah, they had to up it up. They had to up it up. You know, you take 10 and you go back to your shack, you know, man, look. They said, look, we got to give them something else. You got to give them something else. And that's why, and even in death, they was never sure that we was dead. That's why they killed us 4 or 5 times.
Yes, they
They
did.
hung us, shot everybody, unload their gun in you, then set you on fire, then cut your head off and cut your legs off. They had to make sure you was dead.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
No, they couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle that.
Yeah, we endured so much.
Sure.
More than anybody, any group, you know. So for them to, that's why, you know, a lot of these immigrant groups that come here, they try to undermine us, not knowing that we endured a lot of stuff. So we can ask for protections
Right.
under the law, reparations
Right.
to help repair our communities.
Right.
We have every right, but you know.
There's only one group of people that suffered more than black people.
Who's that?
When they dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So and if they ask for anything, I don't blame them for asking, because, you know, they really, well, we had bombs dropped on us too, you know.
Yeah, Black Wall Street.
Yeah, Black Wall Street,
Yeah.
1911.
Yeah.
The Move, 1985.
Move, yeah, I was getting ready to say that. Yeah.
1985, under the disguise of we're trying to get him out of there, under the orders of no good good, and of course at that time he had to get the permission from Governor Dick Thornburgh, so he called Harrisburg to say, look, I got a problem down here. Said drop it. 66 homes later, you know.
That was in Philly.
Yes.
That bomb
Yeah.
dropping.
Osage Avenue.
Wow. Osage Avenue.
Yes. Mother's Day.
On Mother's Day they did it.
That was Mother's Day week.
Damn.
Yeah, I remember reading about a gentleman in the neighborhood that everybody knew who had a big record collection. I don't know if you remember. He lost everything. He had
man.
some rare jazz recordings and stuff like that. You know.
I'm thinking about Abdul Kareem Jabbar when you said he had an
Yeah,
extraordinary
he had a
record collection that
a collection. Yeah.
He lost that in a fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you talking about someone in Philly?
The
Right.
Move. Yeah, this guy lost his collection.
Okay.
I
Rare jazz albums.
Yeah, I remember he was on the news. I kind of felt bad for him because,
I would feel bad for him.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
You
yeah,
basically went through the same thing when you lost your collection, right?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, he had a hell of a collection too.
But now it's all digital. I found a way to hack through, you know. You know, I'm into the technology, so
Right,
you know,
I understand.
I can get anything I want without even paying for it. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, these questions I'm asking you are not like in a chronological order. They're just wild and all over the place. But that's how I plan to edit certain segments. Now I'm going to talk about Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm again. Malcolm said, this videotape of it, Malcolm said that Elijah Muhammad was being financed by a rich white man. Keep in mind that the Nation of Islam posed to be a black militant organization. What's your thoughts on that? Is that a compromise?
Well, it shows that anybody could be bought off, really. You know, that's the way I look at it. You know, they say they for black people, they militant, but now they getting money from an outside source, you know.
That's a serious compromise.
Well, first of all, H.L. Hunt, that's the gentleman that was sending money to the Nation of Islam. He was a shrewd businessman. I mean, he was shrewd. And he was one of those kind of men that anything that he couldn't have, he would destroy. Or he wouldn't let you have what you wanted. So for him to be able to support the Nation of Islam, he was buying them. So he owned them, although there were brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam that wanted to do things different. They would never go over what they were saying at that time, the old man, which was Elijah Muhammad, about accomplishing anything or doing anything because of the money. And then the higher ups that was on that same payroll that was getting that extra money, they didn't want that money to be broke off. You know, they was getting money from the number 2 poor charity from, you know, I want to say in the 1960s and 70s, they had to have 100,000 registered Muslims in the Nation of Islam. If everybody was sending their $2 a week for the number 2 poor charity, my question was always, well, where's all the money going? And we came through a time when family Muhammad was royalty. So anything that they wanted, they could have. You know, they got mad at a preacher a few years back because he wanted his church to buy him a jet. Heck, Elijah Muhammad had one. They bought him one in the 60s. You know, so it's a touch and go situation when it comes to finance. Greed has a way of getting at people, and we go right back to that money can't change you or money won't change you. We'll go right back to that. Money will change you. It will.
You think that the money that Hunt, put in the Nation of Islam kind of restricted the Nation of Islam for what they wanted to do?
It did. It did.
They were compromised.
Yeah.
The fact that the white man was paying them money.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Because I'm sure there was rules and regulations, stipulations
That went with the money. That went with the envelope. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
He had to have said, look, this is my thoughts. Pretend you're a militant. Pretend you hate white America. But in reality, they didn't.
They never struck a blow against white America. You never read or heard or saw anywhere where Muslims attacked or jumped on white folks.
Well, that says a lot. That says it all. Yeah.
Never.
That says it all.
Never. And we were taught and trained to believe that the white man was the wicked one, the evil one, the devil, and they said we have to slay them. And a lot of brothers, especially a lot of young brothers, was waiting to slay them. And then they told us, well, every time you sell a newspaper, you kill a devil. That was a bullet. So we upped our papers from 100 to 210 a week. We were not tricked or conned or fooled. Please understand that. We were straight up brainwashed.
Yeah.
So
Straight up.
The rifles, the papers were rifles.
Yes. They said every time you saw a paper, that was a bullet, you killed a white man. And we was out there knocking them off too. We was knocking them off. Banging on people's doors, bam, bam, bam. Stopping them from eating their bacon and eggs in the morning on a Saturday morning to get a newspaper.
Wow.
And that's called slaying the devil.
Yeah, that's what it was called.
That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So that's what we went through. That's what we went through.
Because there's footage of Elijah Muhammad himself. A day after they slew Malcolm, a reporter asked Elijah Muhammad, what was the main fallout? What was the main reason, the difference you and Malcolm had? And Elijah Muhammad said, Malcolm wanted to use arms.
That's correct. That's correct.
He didn't say he was talking too much about my personal life.
Right.
He didn't say Malcolm was stealing too many bean pies.
Right.
He had beef sausages in his basement.
Right.
He said that Malcolm wanted to use arms.
That's what he said.
That's the main reason for the fallout.
That's what he said.
Ooh.
And they knew, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew, along with John Ali and all them other folks running around at the top, high echelon, they knew that they couldn't cut Minister Malcolm in on the deal because he wouldn't go for it.
Yeah.
He would have never went for it.
Yeah. As far as taking money and abusing the so-called Negroes.
Right. He was not going to go for that.
And,
his word was truly his bond. His word was his bond. And he felt so bad about the black people that he put in the nation, that he brought in the nation because of what he said, or what he done.
Yeah.
And the real downfall is that when they shot and killed Ronald Stokes in Los Angeles, Minister Malcolm gathered his troops up. It was on the way to go to war.
To rumble. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And Elijah Muhammad put the brakes on it.
Stopped them.
And that's where the downfall started at. because Minister Malcolm said we're just not going to take that. They're coming in our house now. It's time for, we have a right to protect our house, and that was the one. And Minister Malcolm was so truthful that they know they just couldn't get him to go along with a lie like that.
So they had to get rid of him.
Had to go.
They had to get rid
The brother had to go. Had to go.
I've heard it said that Elijah Muhammad gave a directive to a lot of the ministers, the captains and lieutenants, to not say anything about the assassination of Kennedy. And I've heard it said that somebody got on the phone, told all the ministers, don't say nothing about Kennedy, but they never told Malcolm. And like you said earlier, Malcolm was constantly calling Kennedy the Fox.
Right.
So that, And then when he got to the Manhattan Center, if you read the speech,
right,
it was in the keeping of Malcolm to mention anything negative about Kennedy.
right.
He didn't say he was glad Kennedy got killed. He just said it was a case of chickens coming home to roost. You reap what you sow.
Right.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it was first of all, it was a true statement, and the real bad part about it is that the article didn't even hit the newspaper till a week later that he made the statement, and it was a small article. The first time they did it was a small article like that, but then once that the Nation of Islam realized that they had leverage that they could use against Minister Malcolm. Then it became a major article. Then it became something major. It became something serious for them to look at and to do. They got him in the question and answer period where he made the statement, and it probably would have been okay had he said just the chickens come home to roost, because that would have just been that statement. But he added on to the statement. He said, and being an old farm boy myself, chickens coming home to roost always made me glad and never made me sad. And I think that's what they really leaned on. America leaned on that. The press leaned on that. And they was talking about the demise of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. But John Kennedy was murdered because of his political beliefs or his aspirations in the political world. And Minister Malcolm just spoke on it. He just, he was wicked. I mean, he really was wicked. All the candidates were wicked. Even when they tried to do good, they was wicked. That's why they murdered him. They murdered Robert. Yeah. They got rid of him. They would have got rid of Ted, but he had water in his shoes, so they couldn't do nothing with him. He liked to swim in the lake with his car and women. So yeah, he was a cold murderer. So they held that murder over his head, so he couldn't do nothing. So he was done.
Yeah.
But
also, I read the Kennedys. They weren't well liked by the mob because the mob headed the unions, and they were anti-union. JFK and Robert Kennedy. So that's another reason why they had to get rid of them.
There's 2 books, George, that I found out you were associated with.
yes.
Danny, pass these to my brother George. How did you get involved in these books?
By luck, by sheer luck. First of all, this is beautiful, and I need to say that these 2 books, were probably 4 years in the making to do. The brother that actually had these put in print, he's in Canada, and we did a lot of talking via telephone or via email, as far as working on these books and these speeches and stuff. But years of research and time, and when you're doing something of this magnitude, time just flies by. Like the project we're working on now. When you mentioned that it's a year behind time, I'm saying it seemed like we just started this. But you can never, ever spend enough time on Minister Malcolm or the works of Minister Malcolm for any reason at all. But this is a true blessing to be able to put into print. I have 2 other books. They're the same books, but they're re-edited. and they're. I want to get them into the black colleges. I have to make sure I get you a copy of those books. It's a bigger volume. And they're really good books.
I was shocked, Danny, when I picked that book up and saw George's name throughout the book. I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
George is involved.
I've always prided myself in support of folks that supported something that was good. If it's good and you're doing good, I'm supporting. I'm going to support it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Do you want to take a break and then come back?
I'm ready. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, whatever.
You want to continue?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. All right. It's good rhythm.
Okay, let me